Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
Children of all ages.
I hope we've all stocked up on everything so that we can be able to enjoy this really, really phenomenal feature this evening. I just filled up my glass. You're like, I've got to go. He's like, oh, good. Well, fill up quickly. Go now. Ladies and gentlemen, I always think it is such a treat to hear this woman when she comes up for past features. If you wanted to know anything about past features, including Lucia Blinn's past features, you can always go to www.chaoticarts.org/spellcafe. Just start doing a search for stuff and past locations. You can see, this is a whole trick about seeing her everywhere. So please, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really looking forward to what she's going to do this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Miss Lucia Blinn.
Yeah.
Everybody for being here. Is Bob Rush go back at his...
He said he can hear.
He
said he can hear. He's like, I'm waving
at him because I wanted, he said he had a crush on a guy named Tim, and I wanted him to know that he was not the only one. I'm going to read a couple of poems from my last book, which is called, we called it The Country, and this one, The University of Tim Sullivan. An unsuspecting September morning, freshman year, day one, perched near the top of the lecture hall, I look down and see him, Tim, and I am gone. Hopeless, hapless, sunk and snared in an instant by the lean stride, wavy sandy hair, and what I would come to know as teasing humor in those eyes of blue mischief. My major and minor declared, T.S. I love you. I perceived a shadow in stock, register for his classes, share his locker, drive him home, make him laugh, and wait for the date that never comes. You're too sophisticated for him, someone says. Whatever that means, I vow not to be it anymore. But nothing would unseat him from the cells of my soul. Not quitting school for advertising, not leaving for New York, not marrying, mothering, or moving back to the Midwest. Tim was aboard for the 40 years it took for him to be divorced, me to be widowed, and to realize over that long-awaited date that I was too sophisticated for the now gray-haired, enthusiastic imbiber and father of 5 who had grown up to be a dead ringer for the world's worst president. The Last Supper. The tableau, so deeply etched, a lifetime later, the mere words Greenwich Village bring back the anonymous brownstone. Cozy living room, glowing hearth, crock of pâté, scotch and Kents aplenty, candlelit buffet, a rose compoyo in a clay pot, Chianti, laughter, Mozart. Life might have ended that night, quitting well ahead, but the host said, you've got to meet our friend John. He'll love you. John, phoned in Riverdale, arrived, and I loved his green MG. And dinner the next night at his high-ceiling club, and the filet he fixed the night after that might have been the beginning of ever after, had there been more dining than whining, had he not smashed the MG and never called again. Woo. I'm going to read you a number of things from an upcoming book 4. Mangled. On Fridays, Mom dusted and vacuumed, baked cheesecake or chocolate chip cookies, and changed our white cotton sheets and pillowcases. Mondays, she washed and hung them outside to dry. They smelled like sunshine. Tuesday evening, she mangled them. Did every house have a mangle back then? Yeah. Ours, in the basement beside the stairs, resembled a small iron lung that opened to receive the sheet, then clamped down and rolled it out smoothly. Doing that, Mom said, she pressed her worries into the wrinkles. Therapy was simpler in those days. I was probably about 10 one summer when friends were gathering for after-dinner baseball. I wanted to join them, but got waylaid in the basement. Mom, alone at the mango. It was nothing, she said. It was all in my head. A first-time brush with an unknown pain. Stay down there with Mom while she mangled, or leave her alone and run out to play. Stay or leave. Stay or leave. Squirming with guilt, I left her. I remember steak. Even as I recall white gloves and a taupe suede cloche just to go to the office, so too do I remember beef. It's been many moons since the ribeye and lyonnaise potatoes on summer weekends in Long Beach. Rare filet and chocolate souffle at Cafe Nicholson on 58th Street. Strip steak and Roquefort salad at Priscilla on 44th. It's been foreverest in steak au poivre at Danny's Hideaway and martinis and cheeseburgers on Madison Avenue. There, too, in the misty distance, standing rib roast, Yorkshire pudding and poker at Valerie and Bill's. San Francisco at David's with filet and Cabernet. Dinner parties with Ellen's baked steak on black and white Wedgwood. And all those Sundays in the country with friends, Marty tending marinated flank steak on the grill. It was a memorable movie. Me, the drinking, laughing, smoking ingenue, oblivious to the films hurtling toward a sober night. The wizard's curtain drew back to reveal not a sizzling steak, but dead cow. Celadon. There once was a flapper sort of frock in silvery green silk. Celadon, before I knew Celadon. I bought it to wear dancing with Marty at Goldie's in the East 50s. Marty and Arthur Murray Master, I praying to follow. Delusion being second nature, I imagine that dress and that numinous New York night, we drank and smoked and spoke of God knew what. I imagine that dress meant dancing ever after, and that his gray Oldsmobile convertible meant driving forever into the Hamptons, reading novels on the beach, and dining al fresco. I was very young, and swung a shiny brunette bob, and slept dreamily through the night, but that was some time before my fitting for a second shadow named Fear. I remember paneling. Once upon another time in a proud gray Chicago hospital, the small elevator lobby on my floor was paneled in a dark, glowy wood. Paneled, as in privilege, as in security. Twice I stayed there for 5 days and nights, leaving each time with a scrumptious bundle of baby girl. It was none of today's, here's your infant, out you go. There were the slow hours of pink roses welcoming Meredith, yellow ones for hello Daphne, soft, sweet moments of a nurse looking over my swaddled babe, the tiny being from inside my being, to hold and feed and stare at, of marking menus. How little could I eat to slim down in 5 days, and doing it, of chatting to my Belgian roommate, of good nights to Marty and padding back to bed, life never to be so safely paneled again. Celadon 2. Once upon a whole other New York, an unidentified designer created a line of understated fashions for Kimberly knits. I probably found mine at Bloomingdale's. Slim skirt, sleeveless top, short jacket in soft gray green, early celadon. There is a smiling photograph of me wearing that outfit, working on Maidenform, or Chanel, or Clairol on Madison Avenue. It was 1961, and I had landed us a treasure, a rent-controlled apartment on 90th and Park. This was New York, and I lived there. And never mind that I wasn't happily married, this was New York. And I could distract myself with lunch pals and martinis, cigarettes and flirting, marvelous theater, memorable restaurants, and weekends in Long Beach at the in-laws who, never mind, weren't happily married. They had a beautiful Georgian house, didn't they? And a cook and driver who ferried us to and from Manhattan. And there was scotch to drown my discontent. And then there was a baby to be born, and wouldn't that be a delicious distraction? And what? Chicago? He was taking a job in Chicago? And I would not live in New York? What soul-shattering calamity was this? We became Chicagoans. And 5 days after baby Meredith was born, I wore the celadon Kimberly knit home from the hospital.
Chicago's not half bad though, is it?
It's just peachy.
It's
With the
not
Michigan
New York.
pizza
Oh,
still
what
in.
can I tell you? I'm an inveterate brat.
From Detroit.
Judy again.
Originally,
Here's how it was. We left the office together. The office we shared at BBDO, New York, where Judy wrote a weekly piece of sassy copy for the Saturday Evening Post. By some privileged arrangement, it was Judy's only assignment. The rest of her time devoted to manicures, taking calls for dinner dates with a series of wealthy beaux, and occasionally standing up and performing an arms-flinging witchcraft. I, meanwhile, wrestled with commercials for Campbell's soup and Vermont maple syrup. The rest of my time spent in drunken sailor spending. Judy, having sublet a gorgeous little maisonette off Madison, had invited me to dinner that Friday night. We wouldn't have all night. She was leaving for the weekend in the Hamptons and had a pack of Bermudas and Lily Pulitzers. Dinner was a tin of Cross and Blackwell vichyssoise, blended to a froth, followed by fettuccine alfredo. Never mind that it was an all-white and rich, as well as rich as Judy, eggs, heavy cream, parmesan. It was all she knew how to cook. And as with all things Judy, it was to my starry eyes, Manhattan on toast. She went on to marry a bathroom tissue tycoon, lived in a penthouse on Park and in Palm Beach, and wrote a few novels about life in that lane. Warhol painted her beautiful face. Sinatra sang at her celebrated parties. Our friendship by then ended. I read about them in New York Magazine. And one day, as these things go, Google informed me that at 64, at Claudette Colbert's house in Barbados, Judy had danced off the stage. Cheers. It was an orange blossom at a freshman fraternity party. One small sip of gin and a pair of golden doors opened, and shy little me was suddenly a fearless and funnier me. Call it Oz. Advertising meant martinis and great goblets of Gallo Red before blue cheeseburgers and Mike Rudy salad at Ricardo's. Remember that, Charlie? There was scotch at 6, vodka tonics on Sundays, and rivers of Muscadet and Puy Fissé before all your Cabernet and Chardonnay. After cooking Julia and James for days, There was no setting the dinner party table without cigarettes in ashtrays. No serving cassoulet without Montrachet. We inhaled each other's fumes between courses and lingered over coffee and cognac with more cigarettes. Nobody said they'd kill us. Mornings after, there were sore throats and hangovers. You remember them, the good old days. Hampers at Harrods. There is a department on the ground floor of that emporium. Hampers reads the sign above a display of various styles of varying degrees of luxury. Possibly it is the very lack of a hamper that has hampered my life. A lovely tawny basket fitted with flatware and goblets, napkins and plates. A periwinkle cloth to spread in the shade of a grand tree in a sunny meadow of a summer afternoon. The hamper filled with a fine roasted fowl, crusty loaf, Irish cheddar, a few pears, and there to share it, someone I'd been longing to see again. Or my own girls, perhaps. Yes, my girls again, 6 and 10 again. But not in a sunny meadow. It would be a sun setting 7 o'clock on those big rocks at the harbor. There would be sailboats. We would be laughing. And I could rerun the movie. Make fewer mistakes this time. And that very day, someone went and uninvented war. Left behind, but not wrecked. You've no idea what a technophobe I am, said my friend Pat, even as she in the next breath announced herself the new owner of an iPad 2. So it's official. Everyone's buying the next thing, and I am not. Mired in a sleepy other time, I limp along with my not very smart phone, aging MacBook, and vintage Kindle. I, at least at this writing, am not the one in a restaurant to look up the name of that actor in that movie we can't remember the name of. My phone will not take your picture or check the latest read this instant email. I cannot make a date with you unless I'm home with my elderly, fraying file of facts. You have, the lot of you, left me behind as you zoom into still another realm of thrilling, life-changing, must-have stuff. How disturbing is this to what passes for my peace of mind? How quickly can I finish this poem and take a nap? Consider the college dropout. John D. Rockefeller, Howard Hughes, Ralph Lauren, Ted Turner, David Geffen, Larry Ellison, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg. Schooling may be hazardous to your wealth. Oh, Beyonce. Yes, the 150-carat diamond ring that your husband, Jay-Z, whoever he is, paid $70 million for is possibly the most gorgeous of all things gorgeous in the history of the planet. The Dazzler is, after all, 100% diamond. And what I'm wondering is, I'll bet it's really heavy. Did Jay-Z get a deal? Did he charge it to Visa or just write a check? And I wonder what a $10 million ring might look like on you, and what the leftover 60 might mean to people who don't look like you. Let's be Switzerland. Let's have the wealthy send us their money, and we'll hide it for them. Let's make lace and watches and fine chocolate. I bet we could get the hang of cheese with holes in it. And knives for someone else's army, so they could go out and kill people. And we could stay home and work on our yodeling. Leave nothing. Facing me as I hike the airport in Phoenix, a young man's black Nike backpack with white letters, leave nothing. A memo from the existential front. Perhaps I am to strip my closets, accelerate my deaccumulating, let go the debilitating fear that hangs on and on. Perhaps I am to leave nothing but a poem scribbled on the sand. Larry, Larry, Larry. Yes, per Warren Buffett's buffet of giving, you will donate half your holdings of $36 billion in your lifetime. Lovely, thank you. As for the remaining $18 billion, there's a powerful little book called The Power of Half. Read it, Larry. Think about giving away another $9 billion. Come on, do you really need a $600 million Hawaiian island? How about one for 300? How about a few fewer yachts, Italian jets, and multi-acre Malibu properties? Think what pieces of misery your wherewithal could delete, and what manner of excellence you could create in the chasm between the privileged and the pitiful. We're on the critical list here, Larry, and you and your cronies at the pinnacle of consumption have a conspicuous opportunity for healing. Come on, Larry, cast some more bread on our troubled waters. Someone put me in the dryer and I have shrunk, or nearer my grave to thee. So very sorry to put it that way, but there is no hiding from the truth. Not long ago, as I took my constitutional, I say that rather than power walking, which I don't do. I think Harry Truman took what he called a daily constitutional, but I digress. While walking some few weeks ago, I had the curious sensation that I was closer to the ground than ever before. There was no blaming my shoes or peculiar dip in the terrain. The cold, irreversible fact is that I am suddenly shorter. I, once a respectable 5'5", and now -1 inch. Can 2 be far below? This thing is closing in, this everywhere I turn, this hourglass of sand relentlessly pouring south. One wonders if it's time to start drinking again.
Why stop?
That's a whole other story. Okay, and finally, leaving. If Nora Ephron can leave us at 71, she, spilling with energy, ideas and talent, humor and charm, a passionate cook with 10 different jams in her fridge, it isn't unthinkable that I, endowed with less, i.e. one lone jar of orange marmalade, could be rudely called away. All those indelible dames, Jackie, Diana, Audrey, Grace, my own Irma and Barbara, Judy and Joan, none of them reaching 80. True, there is still Carlin at 98, and Ursula still running the poetry group and volunteering at 100, their brains intact. But the clock is unforgiving and unrelenting, unstoppable, unwilling or able to slow its pace. Best get on with it. There isn't a second to squander. Thank you.
give it up one more time. See, those are very cool pieces. And thank you very, very much. And thank you all for like sitting out here for the heat. And now I've got to say a bunch of things about upcoming features because, you know, it might not just be Lucia Blinn that's awesome, but it might be in 2 weeks Charlene Newman that might happen to be awesome. Right here, August 1st is a feature. Yeah, where's my guy? Yeah, oh yeah. Well, he's number one in our heart. Sorry, no, I didn't mean it that way, but
I'm
you're
number
awesome.
4 in your heart.
And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to have this voice modulator thing.
Damn.
But, you know, we'll see if we can have it in the future. But that was awesome. That was awesome about him with the voice modulation thing. But as I said, on August 1st is Charlie Newman. And what I think is funny is that Robin Fine is a feature here on August 15th, which is very super cool. And she is also doing a feature like a week later with me in Evanston, which I don't even know the name of the location. But and I'll probably send stuff out about it. But she's like feature lady in August, which is cool. And hey, wait a minute. Oh, Bob Lamar's who is here. He's a feature after that on August 29th. Yeah, Bob. Yeah, I see you back there. Yeah. Sandy World on September 12th. You know, I could just keep going on and on, but I can also tell you to go to chaoticarts.org/thecafe for the 2012 schedule. In a couple months, we'll actually be working on the 2013 schedule. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out here. And it's nice and cool in here. Rock on. Awesome. I hope to see every one of you. And if you want to know anything about the podcast for the feature, you can also go to that site. Or if you want any info from me, I can't remember how you spell chaoticarts.org/thecafe. I can give any of that information to you. That is no problem at all. But we'll also hopefully have this Poetry Open Mic as a podcast. And thank each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you here in 2 weeks.